So we're talking about empathy because I'm a big empathy kind of guy. I don't believe in sympathy. I'm more of an empathy guy, and I believe that you and Tony are those kind of guys. So how has that affected your life, knowing that you are that kind of individual?
Yeah, I've had to learn how to really manage that quality or that aspect. I think it's very good, obviously, particularly because I had so much pain in my life early on. I was very empathetic to other people and their pain. So there's definitely some value to that. I mean, the other thing early on, losing my dad, I felt like I had to step up as a leader earlier. So I got some gifts out of that tough experience that I would never have ever picked to happen, losing my dad, but it did make me grow. And one of the ways was, very empathetic. Now, that's a great quality because you can see other people and see what's really going on for them. And I think it makes me a great coach. Sometimes it can go too far though, where you're taking on everybody's problems. And I had to learn how to not do that later in life because I literally would become consumed by their energy, right? Or their pain. And I know someone at some point told me, you can care about them and really understand what's going on, but it's not my job to take on their pain. And that was very helpful and almost creating like a little bit of a invisible shield where I'm not going to carry their pain on top of everything else I'm carrying. So I think we have to be careful with that. And that was one of the great lessons of my life that I had to learn.
And like I said, I've been in recovery over 33 years, and one of the big things they talk about is it's not my circus, it's not my monkeys.
Yeah.
Sir, I can help you get clean and sober, but I can't help you with the rest of your junk.
Yeah.
So that sounds,
Yeah.
a lot of it is an inside job.
Yeah.
And even like like some of the earlier stuff you worked on, it's all about the inside, working from the inside out.
Absolutely.
So how did you start working in personal development back in the 80s?
Well, when I actually got out of college, my first job was I had a Wall Street job, right? I wasn't actually on Wall Street, but I worked with a Wall Street firm, and I realized I didn't love it. Like it was good at it. I was making good money as a young guy. I was the youngest this particular firm that I worked for had ever hired in their, at that time, 50 some year existence. I was the youngest they ever hired. And I did well. And they wanted me to, after a couple of years, they wanted me to be a manager, a leader. I was super young still, but it wasn't fulfilling me. And so I was always reading just like you. And I remember watching a morning show and this guy came on and he was a little bit older than me, is Tony Robbins, right? That's who it was. I remember watching him and he's talking about his new book, Unlimited Power. And I said, I got to get that book. And so I got that book and I read it in a couple of days. It was a big, thick book. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to help him out. So I moved out to California and I was involved in running his company. I ran sales and marketing for a couple of years. And that's really how I got into it. And I learned a ton from him. And then I left to do my own thing, not in the same way he was doing it. I was working with big companies. So working with, basically I was teaching leadership, peak performance, but then also how to communicate a value proposition, how to speak. And I've been doing that ever since. I've had lots of other businesses too, but that's been my core business. And I absolutely still to this day, even though it's 30 some years later, I love it.
So, like when I met Tony once and he's got these big mitts of hands.
Yeah.
And I'm only like 5'9", and I just like, wow, that dude was huge. So what was your first impression of meeting him? What was it like?
Not really. I mean, the size a little bit. He is very, very big, which actually he went through struggles. The reason he is so tall and big is that he had a tumor on his pituitary gland, which excreted all this extra growth hormone, which made him grow super fast. And his family is actually quite short, his brothers and sisters. And, he's 6'7", 6'8". So actually adversity, but he's used it very well and had to manage that adversity because excreting that much growth hormone as you grow older is not good for you. And he's been able to, through mindset and other technologies, but without using drugs or things like that, been able to really manage that. So, I'm really proud of him. But I guess the big thing that really struck me about him was his heart, right? You talked about empathy, just a really good human being and somebody that cares deeply about other human beings. And that's what made me want to get on that mission of helping him initially and then continuing with my own work.
So, okay, now, like I had Miss Sharon Lechter on. She, helped co-wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. And eventually they had their own things and they moved on. And I think that's great because sometimes, like you said, he deals with a lot of one-on-one and you're dealing with big corporations. So what was that like, eventually hanging up a shingle of your own and doing your own thing? Was that kind of not scary, but were you kind of like a little bit nervous going out and doing your own thing?
Yeah, well, at first I was really confident and I thought the phone's going to ring off the hook and this is going to go, it's going to be so easy. And then, that's not what happened. So I remember going, oh my God, did I make the right decision? Should I go try to get my job back? Should I have gone to law school? I mean, I had all these doubts in my mind, and that's not a bad thing, right? It kind of gives you the opportunity to solidify your confidence when there's a doubt. You can go the other way and become more afraid, but I stepped into it and it worked, right? It took time. I was creating a brand new business. It wasn't going to be, instantaneous. Thousands of companies are going to come call, hey, can you come help us out? But over time, I built it and we created great clients. A lot of the big tech companies are our clients, Cisco Systems, Salesforce, Microsoft, Zoom. I mean, you name it. Most of the big clients or companies in tech, or many of the big companies in tech are clients of ours, and the financial industry, MetLife, people like that are clients of ours. So it's been rewarding, but just like anything you do, like we want it to go super easy. We want it to happen all at once, and you've got to have perseverance, right? You have to have grit. But if you have that, the lessons that come along the way, which seems like setbacks, are really great lessons that allow you to get stronger.
One thing I love about your book, and I'm going to keep referencing it because I love it. It talks a lot about building a team, and being in the military. It's all about your brothers, your sisters. Because if even in police officers, fire department, if your team has a bad day, somebody's not coming home. So what is it like, in the corporate world, trying to get the big executives to realize you have to build from the team out.
Yeah.
So what is that like when you're sitting across from somebody and be like, listen, your team they got to become a cohesive unit?
Yeah. I think most of the leaders I work with, because they're fairly enlightened, they understand that. They might not have had it happen yet. A lot of times they're coming in and they're taking on a new role, new team, and they have to create that culture. When I teach leadership, I said the first thing you've got to do is create a winning culture, a winning kind of experience or feeling or way of going about what we do. Culture, I think, is so critical. And a lot of leaders are not aware of that. They just go, hire some people and let's go make it happen. Well, you got to hire the right people. And how do you know you're hiring the right people? By creating a culture and then making sure that the people you hire or bring on match that culture. Like earlier, I was talking about the culture we create. And we, basically have three things I measure people by. Do you always play big? Do you, we call it eat pressure for breakfast, but do you perform at a high level when the pressure's on? And do you spread the love? Are you somebody that really loves helping people out? If I hire somebody that doesn't fit into that culture, now I'm not saying they have to be a color of skin, makes no difference, right? They don't have to be male or female. They don't have to come from one religion or one part of the world. None of that matters. What matters is, are you going to play big? Because I got to count on you. I got to know when we send you out and you're with a client, you're going to step up. I remember one time years ago, I had somebody say, you need to take your course and have it looked at by an expert to make sure it's structured properly. And I did that, and I hired this expert, and paid her a lot of money, and she was dumbing it down, like the stuff that we were teaching. I go, what are you doing? And she said, well, I want to make sure that the way that it can be taught is if someone's having a bad day and they got a little headache, that they can still teach it. I'm like, no, hold on a second. If someone on my team's got a little headache, they're going to step up, even though their head hurts, because I've done that plenty of times, and they're going to be the very best they can be. And I'm not saying that in a mean way, but that's our standard. The Army that you were in and the teams within the Army, there's standards that you want people to live up to, and you've got to build that culture. So we actually help a lot of people build their culture, build the way that we want people to think and feel and act, and then go recruit towards that culture.
And I love that. Like today I released an episode. I interviewed Mark Cuban's brother, Brian. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about his recovery from addiction and all that. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about how when the Mavericks got bought by Cuban, he gutted everything and put brand new in. Everything was new. And they're like, they're a losing team. He's like, yeah, but when they come in there, I want them to feel that they're the best. Yeah. And change the culture. And a little while later, they won the NBA championship. Yeah. So talk to us about, you have to change the culture. And a lot of it is from the head down.
Yeah. I mean, the leader, your responsibility, or the leadership team, is your responsibility is to figure out the culture. And the culture it's the behaviors. It's the way you want people to behave when they're doing what they do. Like in the military, one of the things that's universal throughout the U.S. military is no man left behind. Yeah. And so you're taught that, like, hey, it's going to be really dangerous to go back in there and get him or get her. Well, we're going to do it, right? Because we don't leave anybody behind. That's part of a culture. And so, and then also you look at different teams within the military. I've actually been over in the Middle East many, many times. And on 3 occasions, I've spoke to the troops. And I remember at the end of my very first one I did, it was in Camp Arifjan in Kuwait. And this 2-star general came up to me and he shook my hand and it said, thank you. And then, when he let go, there's like this coin, a challenge coin, which I, learned that term. And then you look at, what is the slogan on that challenge coin? So for that unit or that part of the Army, they have a culture. 82nd Airborne was, all the way, I think, right? It was all the way or lead the way, or no, Rangers lead the way. 82nd Airborne was all the way. And so these are cultures that are built with simple little empowering slogans. When I do it in the corporate world, I try to help them create 3 little mantra slogans, little behaviors that they're going to start measuring people by. When you're a ranger, you're measured probably by, are you leading the way? Or are you just waiting for something to happen or trying to go the opposite way? And if you're not leading the way, you're not going to fit into that unit. So these are things that I do try and help companies with. And it's really rewarding because there's a lot of uniqueness. Like when leaders kind of figure out a way to say something that really resonates with their organization, now it starts inspiring people and it's a lot of fun.
Now, I'm a big sports geek. I love sports. And it's amazing to me. I'm a Dolphins fan, so we don't have much to cheer for. Mm-hmm. But when Tom Brady was a quarterback of New England, he broke our hearts many years. But it's amazing how the year that he left from New England to go to Tampa Bay, they changed that whole thought process. Everything changed the minute he hit One Tampa Plaza. Yeah. And but he led by example. Like he would say, I'm going to get there 2 hours before anybody, and I'm going to leave 2 hours after everybody. Yeah. It's kind of like that Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality. Yeah. So now, do you teach the same thing? Like I believe that, you have to you got to put in the reps, like James Clear talks about. So talk about that to where, you got to work. Yeah. If you're going to be successful, you got to work.
You do. And what I also believe is, this is one of the concepts in the book, The Breakthrough Code, you want to pack your day with effective action. So if you look at what Tom Brady does, yes, he does get there earlier than most other players, But what he does, he doesn't just go out there and just like, lift weights and do all that. He's actually figured out a more effective way to translate his effort into results, because effort times effectiveness, how effective that effort is, that determines what results you're going to get. So if you look at Brady, he eats a certain way that has allowed him to continue playing in his 40s. He works out a certain way. He does not pump heavy weights. He actually uses resistance bands and has a special trainer, I think his name is Guerrero, that actually helps him. And, it's unheard of what he's doing. There's nobody in the National Football League, and I was a football player. I didn't even make it through college, right? I had concussions and all sorts of stuff. But there's nobody that has played at the level he plays at into the ages that he's playing at. And then, he retired and then he's back. And, I think he says he's going to play till he's 45 or something like that, which is just unheard of normally. But also look at what's happening. Now you get these other quarterbacks go, oh, okay, Brady did it. It's almost like when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. Yeah. Now you see more of them taking better care of themselves and being able to play a little bit longer into their career. So yeah, absolutely. But it's effective action. Like a lot of people are working really hard. They're not getting to where they want to go. You have to figure out what are the most effective actions I can take in a day, not just what's the most massive action I can take. Massive action will burn you out often. Effective action will actually re-energize you because it feels really good. And some effective actions have nothing to do with what you think you're going to, or they actually do, but it doesn't seem like they have anything to do with what you want to accomplish. Like an effective action for me is meditation, right? Well, what's that going to do for your business or your career? It re-energizes me. It literally like makes me more creative. It gives me an extra set of fuel and more energy, things like that. This morning, I think you and I were talking, I was in a hyperbaric chamber for an hour. And I was in there with my phone, but most of it I was just meditating. Well, how is that going to make me better? Why is that an effective action? Because I came out with less inflammation and just in a better state of mind. So you have to be careful when you think, you got to put in the reps, you got to do the work. Yes, you do, but you have to do it smartly. Like another example, if Brady goes out and he's putting in the reps, but he's doing it at a pace that's not game speed, right? When he's working with receivers, calling plays, running plays. When he gets in the game, it really doesn't translate. That wasn't very effective action. He does it at game speed. So when he gets in the game's kind of slowed down for him because he's already played it at that speed. He's used to it. His mind is used to it.
And I love that. Now, I meditated on a book called Atomic Habits by Mr. James Clear. And the one thing that I really took away from is the first 15 minutes of your day, last 15 minutes of your day are going to dictate what your next day is going to look like. So what is a day in the life of Tom in the morning and at nighttime? What are your rituals?
Well, they've changed over the years, but the first thing I do right when I wake up is, so Clear's saying the first 15 minutes. Actually, I've not read his book, so I need to read it because I know everyone else on the planet's read it. But I'm very familiar with what he talks about, habits, so I talk a lot about that too. But when you wake up in the morning, it's one of the best times to work with what I call your superconscious mind. And most people call it subconscious. So we think, I know my mind. It's what I'm thinking with right now. It's what I'm processing, what McCarthy's saying or what, Rich is saying. Well, that's your conscious mind. And your conscious mind is pretty primitive compared to your subconscious, but I call it your superconscious because it's so much more powerful than the conscious mind. The conscious mind can process 40 bits of information every second. The superconscious, this part that you're not necessarily aware of, but it's your mind and it's where your habits come from and where a lot of your actions are driven from, can process 40 million bits of information per second. 95% of what we do in our day is coming from our subconscious or our superconscious part of our mind. So we have to work on programming that because we're not thinking our way through life. A lot of it, we're just reacting, right? Little intuitions coming up, or we get a little signal like, look this way, and we go, oh, look at that, right? That was the answer that I needed. Well, where does that come from? That's your superconscious. And your mind, a lot of people think your mind is your brain. I don't believe that. I think our mind is bigger than our brain. Like and this may be a little bit new for some people hearing it, but Einstein said everything's energy. Everything's energy. Like your energy, I'm energy. This computer in front of me is energy. This camera is energy. These lights are energy. This table's energy. The floor is energy. The air that we're breathing is energy. It's less dense than our body. Our bodies are just dense energy. But everything's energy. And energy follows thought. You think a thought, you literally are popping energy out, right? And you think a thought long enough, then all of a sudden you start to create things out in the outer world. One of the things I'm really interested in is how do we shift reality? And I'm only not even necessarily answering the question right now, but this is really important. Like right now, what's going on? What's the big thing many of us are looking at? It's the war in the Ukraine. Well, the Russians should have won that war just based on sheer size and firepower. They should have won that war in February or early March. Why are the Ukrainians winning? Not even just like hanging out. They're pushing the Russians back because you had a gentleman by the name of President Zelensky that said, look, we're going to win, but we need some help. Help us out. We need, and then, they said, we can fly you to France because he was the number one person that the Russians wanted to take out, him and his family. He said, I don't need a ride. I need bullets. And what he did, he thought at a level and expressed at a level where the whole world now, not the whole world, but almost the whole world is supporting him. And not just him, supporting the country. Like the sanctions we're seeing now, that's never happened before. People putting sanctions on Russia and Putin, that's never happened. That happened because one man shifted reality using his energy and his thought to spread it to pretty much the whole world. And most people are on board with that, but that's shifting reality. And all the great human beings on the planet have shifted reality. Most people just conform to reality. They say, all right, this is what's possible, so let me just be okay with that. And Zelensky could have done that. Yeah, we're going to lose. Let me just try and negotiate a surrender. He didn't do that. He shifted reality. That's what great people do. And that's really what the Breakthrough Code is all about. How do you shift reality? How do you change from what normally would have happened out on the outside to something way better? And that's what I love, right? Everything's created twice, though, Rich. First inside. Everything started inside. This program we're using to record this podcast, it started in someone's mind. And then they took actions, and their energy probably attracted people that wanted to be part of it. And now here we are talking on a program that didn't exist, 5 years ago or maybe 10 years ago.
And I love that. Something that one of my mentors, Mr. Ed Milet, talks a lot about is the reticular activating system in the brain. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't even know what the heck that is. But it's true that, like Mr. Carnegie, because a lot of people, they always want to talk about, the people that were, Napoleon Hill. Well, I wanted to know who he learned it from. So I went back and learned, Mr. Andrew Carnegie. And he said, your obsessions become your possessions. So I think whether that's positives or negatives in your life. So can you please talk about that, the RAS system, and how to attract what you want into your life?
Yeah. So for me, the reticular activating system is super important. And, technically it's part of the brain, but I think the mind is bigger than the brain. I think our mind extends out energetically beyond the body. That might be a little bit controversial, but because everyone's, no, you're just your body. I believe we're more than our body. I believe when our body's done living, we're not, we're still, our soul or whatever you want to call it is still vibrant and alive. And so I think we're more than our body. And I think our minds are more than our body. I think our minds can energetically reach out and connect with the right people that bring them in our lives. And so I really love programming the mind, that subconscious part of the mind, to look for the right types of things. You said earlier, we're creating it whether we like it or we don't like it. We're creating the stuff that we don't like. And when you start to take responsibility for that, then you can be empowered to change it. Most people say, life's kicking my ass, right? This is no fair. I don't like this. If you believe that, you will see plenty of evidence that that's your truth. But if you don't, if you say, you know what, the life is giving me what I need to get to where I want to go. Like I said, I never would have chosen my dad passing away in Vietnam. I wish I would have got to know my dad. But that experience made me. It shaped me. It carved me. Had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be on this podcast with you. I wouldn't have written a book called The Breakthrough Code. Maybe I would have done something else that would be really cool, but I wouldn't have had the experiences that would have allowed me to write this book, The Breakthrough Code. So everything, I believe the universe is always working in your favor. Might not seem like it, because sometimes it's like, man, this isn't fair. I have so much adversity. There's always an advantage. That's something I told my kids. I have 2 children. They're in their 20s now, but when things would happen to them that they didn't like, I said, look, what's the advantage here? What's the advantage? And because you can always look back later on and go, oh yeah, I see how that helped me out. I'm saying in the moment when it's happening and it's really tough and you don't like it, what's the advantage? How can you use it to make yourself even better?
I love it. And, like Mr. Ed Milet says, he always says, things happen for you.
Yeah.
They don't happen to you. And everything is a teachable moment. Like
exactly.
we may have had some technical problems, but that's okay. We're going to adapt.
We're still here. Yeah, we're still here.
So now tell us, because like I said, a lot of people that are listening to this are veterans, first responders. Mm-hmm. How can your book, The Breakthrough Code, how can that help them? And why did you write the book?
Yeah. Well, first of all, for all those that are veterans and first responders, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. And I just feel privileged to, live in a country where we have so many people dedicated, like all of you are, to helping other human beings. So your fellow man. How can it help them? Look, it's all about living a life without limits. I think when we buy into the reality that, life is fixed and there's only so much you can do, you get stuck. And we all get stuck. I get stuck in areas of my life. But I do believe we can live a life without limits, because where we're stuck, if you apply the right type of energy and thought and action and focus, you can get unstuck. Even in the areas you feel like, man, there's no way I could get unstuck, or that would be impossible to ever achieve that. It's possible. But it's not possible by you just conforming and doing the things you normally do. There's got to be a transformation. And that's what the Breakthrough Code is really all about. It starts with, we have 3 big ideas. The first one is focus on less and then obsess. If you're just trying to kind of manage everything equally in your life, you've got a certain amount of energy. It's getting spread pretty thin. If you want to be successful in business, or if you want to be the best parent you could be, or if you want to change a health situation, or if you want to overcome addiction, which I know that, you were very successful. That took focus. That took you saying, this is important. This is more important than me going out and taking dancing lessons or something that, maybe you want to become a better dancer or whatever. But we can't be a jack of all trades. So when there's a limit and we're stuck, we need to apply focus. And we need to start looking at not where we are, but where do I want to be in this area of my life? And then we need to start training not the conscious mind to obsess, because it's focus on less and then obsess, but train the part of your mind that can process 40 million bits of information per second. Get that obsessing. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm training my mind to focus on finding me the people, the resources, the ideas to get this result. Also, I do it before I go to bed, because you're also in an alpha state before you go to bed. So the 2 best times to program your mind are right when you wake up, and you can be right in bed, still kind of a little bit tired, and then right before you go to bed. Then the superconscious is taking orders from you. That's what it wants. Tell me what to do. Rich, tell me what you want me to focus on. And once you do that, and you do it where you can see it, feel it, and believe it as if it's true, now Your superconscious mind is processing, it's thinking, it's going to memories, it's literally hearing things that you're not consciously hearing. It's seeing things that you're not consciously seeing and bringing them to your attention and giving you intuitive nudges. And so this is really important. I'll tell you a quick little story. A friend of mine, you may know him, Mark Devine.
Yep.
He wrote a book, The Unbeatable Mind. And Mark's been a friend of mine for 20 some years. But his story is really cool. Like, he was an accountant coming out of college, and with a big firm. He was in New York. He had this cushy office. He was on his way to, work his way up the ladder. He's like, I don't like this. And so he's walking back to his apartment one night, and he's going by a Navy recruiting office, and he sees this poster on the front, window, and it's these people doing really cool stuff, like Navy SEAL stuff. And so he goes in there, and goes, I want to do that. He tells the recruiter, and the recruiter says, no, what do you do right now? You look really well dressed. What do you do? He goes, I'm an accountant. He goes, no, just be an accountant. You don't want to do that. Plus, he tells him, there's only 2 people we select each year. The entire Navy only selects 2 people each year that have not already been in the Navy or Navy training to come try out to be a SEAL at the officer level. And so the guy's trying to talk him out of it. Well, what do you think was going on in his mind? Because he made it his focus. He literally started seeing himself as a Navy SEAL. And his belief was, all right, they only take 2 people. I don't know who the other guy is going to be, but I know one of those slots is mine. Now, what he did, though, Rich, it took 8 months where every single day he was seeing it. He was seeing himself not just getting selected, but becoming a Navy SEAL. He was feeling it, what it feels like to be a Navy SEAL. Even though on the outside, he hadn't even been called to say he's got a slot. Inside, he was seeing it, feeling it, believing it. Believe me, belief means you have a feeling of certainty about it. And for 8 months, he was carving away without getting any news, any good news, and, no bad news either, but just not getting selected, carving away, working on his mind, focusing, programming his mind. 8 months in, he started to feel it at a higher level. And then he gets a call that he'd been selected. He got selected to try out. There's 170 people in his class. At the end of the training, at the end of the class, 17 actually graduated. He was the number 1 graduate in his class, the honor man. But what was even more interesting, because he got so good at carving into his mind, he started impacting the people on his boat crew. Because I think it was like, you have 8 people on a boat crew. And now think about it, 170 people started. 17 finished. What are the chances that his entire boat crew, the people he started out that training with, would graduate? Not very good. They did. They fed off his belief. So the really important thing, I think, was when we focus in and we create breakthroughs, it's not just what happens for us. That's really nice. But we influence everyone else around us, right? We can pick them up, and then they start to rise to another level. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, like when you hang around with somebody that's really a good human being, but they're super successful, like you start to believe, wow, I want to do that, right? I can be like that. And so that's a really important thing, I think, that we all can do, no matter what role you're in, because your children are looking up to you, your friends are looking up to you, your community is looking up to you. So long answer, but I think the book can really help people get unstuck. And that's why I wrote it, because I want people to live lives they're really proud of and excited about, not just kind of trudging through another day, which is what most people do.
I love it. So how do we find the book? How can we find your other books, and how can we support your mission?
Yeah, no, thanks. Well, the first way to support my mission is go big in your life, right? Go big and start shaping not only your reality, but help shape other people's realities too. And the books are on Amazon. So the Breakthrough Code, which it's I don't know if you ever read the book, The Alchemist. So the cover's a little bit like The Alchemist, and it's really about shifting reality. That's on Amazon, and that just came out like a month or 2 ago. And then if you want to become a better speaker, win the presentation game, is also on Amazon. But the Breakthrough Code, I think, I put my heart and soul into it. I really, for 3 years, I spent like creating that book. And also, when you get the book, I did do something extra for everybody, and you'll find in the book. It's on page 269. Make sure you take a look at that, because there's a website that you can go to. And I created 14 videos. I don't know if you've seen them yet, but I created 14 videos that coach you through it too, that normally we sell those for like $495, but you get it for free along with the book. And the book's like, $20 or something like that.
I love it. So guys, definitely check out the book. Like I said, I'm leaving for vacation probably in about an hour. That I got 3 books I'm taking with me. One is from John Lee Dumas. The second one is from my friend Russell Brunson, and your book is the third one. So I'm taking those 3 on vacation with me. So definitely pick up the book. Tom, I just want to say thank you so much for your friendship. Hopefully people know that whenever you're on my show, I like to build generational relationships. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's something that we can do. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time and to deal with all the technical issues that we had.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for having me on. And thanks for the amazing work you're doing. I know you're helping so many people that have served their country, helping them get reacclimated and really kind of get through some challenging times. And then your work with people that have struggled with addiction. You are making the world a better place, and you're just such a wonderful human being. Your heart is so big, and it's really been an honor and a pleasure to hang out with you here. And I do believe we don't get anywhere on our own. So I'm huge into creating. You're in mine. So I'm really happy to get to know you, Rich.
And guys, like I said, because of Tom, we're actually giving this coffee away. So if you want some amazing coffee, just write coffee down below. I'll let you know how to get it. Guys, I want to say thank you for being a part of my journey and letting me be a part of yours. Like Oprah Winfrey says, the best way to help yourself is to help others. So I just want to say thank you guys for being a part of my journey. And remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. Have a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Hug your mama if you still got them. And if you don't have them, prayers up. All right, Tom, have an amazing week, brother.
You too. Enjoy your vacation, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely.